This is the weekly wrap from November 11th through November 15th. This is covering 2 weeks instead of one as usual. And then it covers the 18th through the 22nd as well. A lot happened in those 2 weeks, starting with some chainsaw milling and ending with building some end tables out of some chainsaw milled lumber. Here's what happened. Week one, that was the 11th, starting on the 11th, I did some milling prep. So the week prior, we had done that large log, and I milled that up into 10 slabs, dulled one chain that we hit metal, and dulled the other one just in milling hard maple. So both of my new good chains were dull, and so I sharpened both of those, and luckily the one that hit metal, actually that tooth is gone, and so it's like a skip tooth chain now. I mean, it worked out kind of perfectly because you can't really, I mean, that metal could dull multiple teeth, and instead it just knocked one off. So it kind of worked out great. And I sharpened those chains up, and I actually used the one that had the missing tooth. So that was perfect. Milled up the log that was holding the big log, and that one arguably was cooler lumber for the client. So I was glad I got to go back and do that. I think he was glad too. And we milled that up, and it was great. I don't remember how many slabs were in that stack, but I have a photo that I'll include here or here and show. Because I had all the milling stuff, I decided to do some milling. I always have a log stash, literally, like logs follow me around, and just like they're plopped somewhere in a yard that, I'm related to. So even like family members back in Mount Pleasant have logs. So I don't know, I have logs everywhere. It's a problem. But I milled some logs that are sitting around, and these are some walnut ones from the recent walnut milling project. And they look great. It's walnut, so it's beautiful slabs. And I got to do some of the biggest ones that were left, but there are still a number of them that I did not get to. And that's, something that you just chip away at the logs that are sitting out there. I got some really cool slabs. I'll put up some pictures again in one of these locations. So then the nice thing about doing a milling job for someone is, with all that silver maple, or not silver maple, sugar maple, the spalted maple stuff, we stack that up, and I just brush my hands off, go clean up my equipment, and I'm done. But when I mill, then I have to go, where does this stuff go to dry appropriately? What do I do with it? All of that. So I did some stacking, some stickering, making sure that that lumber actually becomes usable lumber in the future, and works out for me. So that stuff is all done, good to go. At the end of week one, I got to the shop, got out some silver maple to make some end tables. So I'm making 2 end tables, and they're going to be from our lumber. So it's stuff that I milled back in Mount Pleasant, and stuff from the city. It was a city tree that came down, and one of the first ones that I milled, and I believe this was before I even got the saw I have now. So this was a saw that I got to utilize for a while, a steel 661 in a 36-inch Granberg mill, and some really cool lumber. It's stuff that I kind of questioned if it was going to be usable, because it sat outside without being covered for a very long time. And I can say that I'm pretty certain even the worst pieces are very usable. There was one of them that wobbled so much, and I cut it in half, and then I cut it down the middle, and I got some really good pieces out of it. It's great to be able to use some of those chainsaw milled slabs and see what they actually produce, which is some incredible lumber. I think these tables are going to be totally unique and show off what this city tree had to offer that you just can't get from other lumber. You just can't match it because it's just bigger, gnarlier looking, crazy trees. So I love that kind of stuff. And that was the end of week one, as I started working on that lumber, just processing it, getting some flat boards instead of some crazy twisted pieces that I don't even know what they look like. So seeing what is actually under that rough chainsaw milled surface To start week 2, I just refined down those pieces further. So this is any project. You just have to take it in steps. So you get rough lumber, you flatten it and see what they look like. You start selecting which pieces go to which aspect of the project, which pieces are your prime, like your drawer face or your top, or the thing that's going to be seen the most. Which pieces do you like a little less? And those are going to become, maybe the interior pieces or support pieces. And then like which pieces might have the thickness you need for the legs or that kind of thing. So that's what I'm thinking about in these early phases. And you just label everything out and make sure you have what you need. I refined things down further and further, and then I got it all to roughly final size. I like to leave a little bit of gap from milling everything flat, and then ideally you let it sit, maybe for a week or two, where it can acclimate and you make sure it stays flat. That can be helpful. I didn't give it a week, but I gave it about 2 days, I think it was. And I haven't noticed any movement in the pieces. They did sit after that, kind of as I thought things through. But that's something to consider. Some people like to leave things sitting on their bench, acclimating to their shop, and make sure that nothing crazy happens, because wood moves and it does some weird things. But these ones were solid, so that's been good so far. I got them to final dimensions. Then I cut dominoes, because the whole thing is domino joinery. And that's, of course, I've talked about it before, but quick, simple, solid joinery, and it makes for a great project. So I'm a big fan of the Festool domino. That happened. I did a dry fit, and then I looked at the legs and I just thought, these are too thick for this. They just don't look right. I got to that point, and then I'm alone in the shop at this point, and I text Kaylee and kind of am like, what do you think of this? Because I'm not sure about these table legs. And she agreed, like, maybe they're too chunky, a little bit too much. And so we put a poll out on Instagram about a couple options for tapered legs. It took a long time to think about. So honestly, that was like a big holdup, a big pause in the project. But you want to get these things right. Like, as much as I want to move forward and be done with a project, I also want to make sure I don't produce something and then go like, well, I kind of jumped the gun on that. We got it right, I think. What I ended up doing is I took a 2-inch by 2-inch leg and I tapered it down to 1.25 inches at the bottom. And I think that ended up working out really well. And then it got an 1/8 inch round over, so it kind of like cleans it all up, and you notice the taper, but it's not like a sharp taper on the legs. And I think it's gonna look great. I'm really excited to get these tables put together, because what it is like the lumber that I used was, say, like a slab this wide. And then what I did was I would split that down the middle, and I have 2 boards that are maybe 5, 6, 7 inches wide. And then I can resaw that stuff because it's thick material from chainsaw milling. And I can resaw it and have 2 pieces that are a mirror image of each other. And so you get some really cool grain match on a wide piece, like a glue up. And that's what I was able to do on the tops of these end tables. So I'm excited about these end tables. They are currently at the phase of, one of them is glued up and the other one is ready to be glued up, but I wanted to use specific clamps to do this. And so I was hoping to shoot over there this weekend and knock the other one out, but I didn't get to it. So other little things, I took a little break at one point to do a 0 clearance insert for the miter saw. I've wanted to do that for a long time, and it started like, the miter saw comes down, right, and the blade's spinning this way. And as it spins this way, you get little pieces that come off. They go down into the gap in the factory cover, and it gets kicked into that corner. And it was starting to like bend the plastic up so that that insert was bent upward, and it was starting to bend like out to where the piece actually sits, and it was causing trouble. So I had wanted to do this for a long time, and I finally did it with a piece of silver maple, because I've milled a lot of that. And it looks really cool. And now my gap in the piece where the blade comes down into is the exact width of the blade, because you just put an insert that fits in there, and then you cut through it, and it's the exact width of your blade you're using. I got some tongs actually ready, so they just need to be sanded right now. They've been water popped. They need to be sanded at the final sanding to 220, and then I'm going to oil them and get them on the website. The goal is to have that up there by Thanksgiving so that people can, look, and we have boards and we have scrap art and utensils, and then tongs will be the new item that's actually listed finally. And I'm excited to share them. So I'm going to show a couple of them right here. This is one that we had done in Mount Pleasant right here. Walnut, maple, like those. And then this one too. This is maple and cherry. And then from the new set here, these I am really excited about because it's the first thing we've included this box elder. So we milled this box elder from a friend's house, and this is just maple, but the box elder is going to be bright red. You can't see it here because it's not oiled yet, but this is going to be this bright, vibrant red color, and it's really one of the more unique wood species out there. So that's going to be really cool. And this was some extra curly hickory from the recent dining table project. So this is reutilizing material that could not be used on the dining table for various reasons. This particular piece, I know for a fact, was one that had too much bow to it. So there was no way I could even get the 5 feet I needed out of the piece. Once it was flattened, it was going to be too thin. So it's perfect to use for something like this and make a great, beautiful product. So tongs, they exist and they're going to be on our website. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming ASAP this week. I hope to have it up kind of concurrent with this video, but if it's not, just be on the lookout for an Instagram story or something like that. We're gonna share that soon. The only other things I'll say is I did a lot of sanding, and sanding is, it is what it is. It's like, it's what it takes. Even on pieces that are pretty clean, that just takes a lot of time. So I had most of a day that was sanding and then the glue up of the table, like I mentioned. So that was week 2. A lot of work on the end tables. And I anticipate those being done but not finished. Done but not with finish, wood finish, applied by Tuesday. And that's where I'm at. Rhea's trying to chip in over there, if you can hear her. We're going to list them for sale. So if you like what you're seeing on the end tables, keep an eye out for those. And then we're going to focus on a lot of products for Christmas. So be ready, for any holiday shopping you might have, because we'll have lots of stuff up. We already have lots of stuff up. Thank you for watching this 2-week weekly wrap-up. I appreciate you being here and just following along with what we're working on. And cheers. Have a good Thanksgiving.